Instagram Stories Weekend Edition. I'm your host, Daniel Hill. I promised you a deep dive into an Adam Mosseri interview, which I'm going to do in a moment. But before we get into that, first, I want to say thank you to one of the listeners who has left an absolutely phenomenal review. I super appreciate it. It comes from a girl has no name 01. Here is the review that I got of the show.
My go-to show since 2018. I've been an avid listener of the Instagram Stories flash briefing since 2018, and it has consistently been my go-to source for all things social media news. The show has been instrumental in helping me stay updated with the ever-changing landscape of social media, adapting to new trends, and leveraging exciting updates over the years. Daniel does a phenomenal job of breaking down complex topics, making it easy for creators like me to stay on top of our digital presence. His insights are always timely, relevant, and actionable, ensuring that we are always one step ahead in the social media game. Whether you're a seasoned social media manager or just starting out, this podcast is a must-listen. 10 out of 10. Would highly recommend.
Thank you so much for that review. Sometimes when I make this show, it feels like I'm just talking into the void. I know you all are listening, but it is super encouraging to get that kind of review. It doesn't cost anything. If you could please leave a review of the show, I would be eternally grateful. And you can do that directly by using the link in the show notes. Okay, let's get into today's episode. Colin and Samir are two gentlemen who have a podcast all about the creator economy. And recently, they had Adam Mosseri on the show, and they did a deep dive. The interview is really long. It's an hour and a half. I definitely suggest listening to the whole thing, but there are some parts about what Adam Mosseri said that really bothered me. They did not land well, from my opinion. I'm going to play first a clip to give you some context, and then we're going to get into the part that I really found just off. The clip is all about creators being able to make money on Instagram through some kind of revenue sharing platform, similar to what YouTube offers. With that context, here's some of the clip.
Revenue matters a lot, but actually to a very small subset of creators. The vast majority of creators are very small, and they're too small to monetize in a meaningful way. And so, yes, they care about monetization. They want to hear about monetization, but it's actually not the thing that they can or should really focus on, because if you have 2,000 followers, it's not really going to be the thing that you should spend your time on is figuring out how to grow your following, not try to make money from 2,000 followers. They also care a lot about being able to connect with and interact with both their fans, but also other creators. So we try to also figure out ways to facilitate connections between creators and fans. Actually, that's another thing that we do really particularly well that we kind of lucked into is with DMs. If I just am a fan of you and I follow you, and then you figure out who I am, and then you can text me on Instagram and it goes into my inbox. So I know people in Hollywood who just like end up making real connections with people who become lifelong business partners because they like their stuff on Instagram. Mm-hmm. And they're not even digital native creators. It's like a film score or a director. So those are the things we try to improve. And obviously, we've got room to improve across the board as everybody.
I think it's interesting to hear that revenue is not as important. And sure, for a creator who maybe has 2,000 followers, it's like not something that's coming their way. When we told our friends that we were coming here, who are primarily YouTube creators, that we were going to be sitting down with you, they were so interested in revenue.
Yeah.
I think for us, like we come from this culture of revenue share.
Yeah.
And I know Facebook does it. And I'm curious, like where does Instagram lie on revenue share?
I'll talk about revenue share in a second, but you should also tell me if I'm wrong. That's just the research that we have suggests what creators care about.
I think for me, the challenge is that I don't think we can blanket use the term creators anymore. Yeah. And I think specifically on Instagram, I think it's harder to use that term. I think the term is so broad that it's challenging to have it encapsulate everyone in the category, right?
Yeah.
And when it comes to Instagram, like, you know, my parents are on Instagram. They post content on Instagram, and they probably have 1,000 or 2,000. That we have so many cousins, Indian family. So it's like we have so many cousins, they probably have 2,000 followers.
On YouTube, there's more of a divide between like creator and consumer.
The line is much clearer.
On Instagram, it's way more ubiquitous. It's just like everyone
can be considered a creator. And so there, for me, if we look at it as like a pyramid of like the emerging creator, you know, as the base of the pyramid, the vast majority on Instagram is going to be an emerging or aspiring creator. Someone who knows how to make good stuff, but they haven't figured out how it can become their full-time income. Then you have like the professional creator group who's making a living, right? And then you have the top tier, which is probably like A-list celebrity and hyper large scale creators at the top of that.
Yeah.
If we're talking about like the creator pyramid there, and the base is not going to care about revenue, or maybe they care about it, but it's not going to be a factor for them yet.
Yes.
But the next notch and up,
Care a ton.
Care to. I think there's a bit of, for me on Instagram, that I've accepted the fact that the way we monetize is we build an audience and then it's a part of our broader advertising business. It's not something we split with the platform, but we're able to sell, native advertising ourselves.
Branding content.
Instagram.
Yeah, which makes a ton of sense. Yeah. That's actually, best we can tell, well north of a $15 billion industry is people doing brand deals off platform on Insta, and then distributing that content on Instagram. So, and I do totally understand the revenue matters a ton, particularly for large creators, and large creators are disproportionately important, right? Because they reach more people. On rev share, because I want to make sure I'm not skirting the question, it's something that we're working on. It's something that I think is just fundamentally more difficult with short form video, though I do think Shorts is doing decently. But with long form video, everything is a bit more straightforward, particularly attribution. So if you watch a 20-minute video and you see 3 ads, what percentage do you want to share? And it's very clear who that share goes to. Whereas with short form video, if you watch 50 videos and you see 15 ads, who gets those dollars? So attribution is tricky in and of itself.
Okay, we are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to dive into the part where Adam Mosseri says some things that I do not like. So stay tuned. Oh, hey, welcome back. Let's continue with the Adam Mosseri interview.
But the bigger problem is that we haven't figured out a way to do it that isn't just burning cash. So we are running tests for what we call bonuses, which are essentially performance-based incentives. So, we will pay you to create more content, and then people create more content. But then we measure, does that actually increase the revenue for the app? And so that we can actually have money to share back. And we are finding that it is much easier to make those programs ROI positive for photos than for videos. And one of the reasons is photos are higher monetization efficiency because you get more ad impressions because you look at photos for less time. But another is that per dollar, when you pay a creator to create something new, they will create more incremental photos and incremental videos because videos are harder to make. And really interesting, the incremental content they make is lower quality than the average quality, but that drop is much lower for photos than for reels. So they'll make another reel, but they will only make one, and it's way worse than the reel that they would have created otherwise, or the first reel that they would have created either way. And so we are trying to figure out, okay, well, what can we do about that? How can we get this working? Because to me, I need that program to make enough money so that we can pay creators and have those checks be credible. If I send you guys a $12 check, it's probably going to make you think worse of us than if we just didn't have a program. And so we're iterating in Japan and in Korea and the US to try to get these programs on their video side working so that we can then scale them up. But for us to do that, it's going to need to not burn money. It's going to need to be get to a place where the eligibility can be, I hope, ideally public, so you know why you're allowed to be in the program in the first place. And the checks need to be credible, which probably comes down to CPMs at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think credibility is the most important because I don't think, if we got a $12 check, I don't think I would feel disrespected or anything like that. I would just want to know, how did that happen?
Yeah.
But it might discourage.
Oh, it might discourage. But if I knew there was a clear path towards like, hey, this is why it was $12 based off the viewership you got. Here's what you can do to increase it. Right? I may feel better about
the trick though is it's not just about your viewership. It's about the replacement value. So let's say you made 10 reels through the program and they all got really good views. But if you hadn't made it, we would have had just as much engagement from him that wasn't paid for. Then from an Instagram business perspective, the ROI is negative 100%. So if we paid you $1,000, I'm making up numbers now, for 10 reels, and the replacement value was 0, you would look at it, your reels, and you'd be like, they all got 500,000 views, and these are the CPMs, you owe me X. And it's like, yes, but from a business perspective, if we hadn't paid you $1,000 and we would have made the exact same amount of revenue, then we've actually just burned $1,000.
Okay, I'm going to stop the interview there. Do you realize what he just said? He is basically saying that they do not need to pay us as creators because we are already creating for them for free. And if they were to start to pay us for things that we have been doing for free, that is an ROI negative for them. We have to show improvement on the platform to help them make even more money than the $32 billion per year that they made in 2022 in order for that to happen. I found this clip to just be so aggravating. I wanted to come through the car speaker when I was listening to it while I was driving. Hopefully you're as annoyed about this as I am, or maybe you don't look at Instagram as a revenue generating platform and you have other means, which is totally fine. And that's perfectly acceptable as well. But for someone who is interested in RevShare, I did not enjoy this clip. That is going to do it for today's episode. Hopefully you found this valuable. I will link to the entire interview in the show notes so you can listen for yourself. Be sure to come back next time for more Instagram news, social media strategy, or other things that you need to know.
Let me tell you a couple things that you should know about me. A product manager but do not have a bachelor's degree. But actually that's factually a fraction of me. And other fractions posting content irregular and irrationally. Still probably won't get a job at the Gram. They forgot, they don't know, or don't care who I am. That's why you never see me at the parties and events. My lack of followers must make me irrelevant. Don't have a course, a book to sell to make a bag of grand. Not a social media marketer, don't represent any brands. Plain to see, don't have an agency. But I got a lot of spam, just putting in my work without the glitz and glam. Won't catch me eating fish unless it's shrimp or clam. No six pack, no risk that there's a gym card in my hand. Don't have a full-time job, but I got a lot of plans. Stay plotting, dropping knowledge on TikTok and Instagram.